My husband Adam and I both went to Israel for the year after high school. We both went there to study just for a year before college, and we met. He was roommates with a good friend of mine from high school, and I had a crush on him, and he apparently had a crush on me, but I got the message that he didn't like me and he thought I didn't like him, so nothing really happened aside from a couple dates, and we went out with friends. Fast forward 4 years, I went to London for one of my very close friends' wedding, a close friend who I had met that year in Israel, and Adam happened to be there. And we saw each other immediately across the chuppah, and our eyes locked, and that was it. We spent the day after the wedding together, and it was really a magical day, even though I was just thinking of it as a friendship, and I think he was too. There was nothing more in my mind at the time, except that night I went back to my friend's house and I thought, God, I like that guy. And many thoughts started whirling in my head, and I was leaving back to Boston the next morning. Adam had offered to drive me to the airport, and I wasn't going to say anything because I thought I was crazy after spending one day with this guy, but he brought it up and he said, what are we going to do about this? And I was so happy that he admitted that he liked me. But he also was very practical, not like me. And he said, we live on opposite sides of the world. This is before email, when phone calls were extremely expensive. And he kind of said, it's not going to work. And I was devastated. And I spent the rest of the plane ride crying. The guy next to me must have thought I was completely depressed, as I was. And I came home, and my parents and my sister picked me up at the airport, and I immediately started to cry again, but I just couldn't tell them. I was too emotional to tell them what was going on. The next morning, I was sitting at the kitchen table with my mother, and finally I was able to tell her what was going on. She didn't know what happened to her daughter, who went to London very happy and came back entirely depressed. I just started telling her the story about this great guy, this great British guy that I met, and we were just on the verge of getting into the details when all of a sudden the phone rang. And my mother got up to answer it, and all I could think of was, why is she answering the phone? I'm finally able to speak. Suddenly she's answering the phone. She picked up the phone and she said, Amy, it's for you. And he has a British accent. And that was the end. That's when Adam and I knew that was it. And I went to London a month later. I spent a weekend with him, and we knew that we were going to get married. That was in August. I went back to London in October, and he proposed to me. And I knew I wanted to marry him, but my parents hadn't yet met him. I knew they would freak out, which they did. But we got engaged. He came to Boston in December when we announced our engagement. It was quite hard to keep that secret from October through December, but we did for my parents' sake. And then we planned the wedding and got married in August.